Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Mike Quigley from Illinois. He is a member of the House Intelligence Committee and a member of the Congressional Ukrainian Caucus. So I'm just going to ask you a human question, a personal question. When you see that, when you see hospitals being shelled, when we hear reports that a woman who was taken out of a hospital pregnant, that she died, her baby died, what goes through your mind?
We have to do more. Our earliest memories probably of understanding black and white footage of the Blitzkrieg and the devastation left behind on a human scale. And a sense then that we knew we could never let something like that happen again. And yet it's beginning.
Well, you heard what the Ukrainian president said. We just had a member of parliament on. Their argument is every day we wait for it to get worse, so that, for example, a NATO country gets hit. I mean, obviously, Poland already feels threatened. Our people on the ground there say the folks are extremely nervous at how close the attacks have come to the border. People die every day. The atrocities escalate every day. More people are starving. More people are cold. More children are dying of dehydration. So what does do more look like?
Well, first, let me add to that. The fact is the threat to NATO is already there. So if our primary concern is protecting NATO, the foreign secretary from Russia saying that they're going to target convoys, the missile strike, the attack 10 miles from the Polish border, the threats to the nuclear power plants, a 6-unit nuclear power plant would have extraordinary catastrophic impact on all of Europe. And second, to the point you're making, why is it that NATO is so sacred? And it is, but Ukraine isn't. Isn't Ukraine making the case that their fight embodies the spirit of why we formed NATO in the first place? So look, there's more we can do. There's always room for diplomacy, providing an off-ramp that is suitable to Ukraine. Second, if Europe is this concerned, as they should be, the ultimate weapon I think they have left is to shut off the energy supply. This is the most sacred thing to Russia and the last, I guess, of the great diplomatic efforts. And then finally, making sure we truly give Ukraine all the weapons they need to defend themselves.
So is your argument essentially, Congressman, I want to make sure I understand you right, that NATO should be looking at the spirit and not the letter of the law if the law is Article 5?
I think when Zelenskyy spoke in a manner that was reminiscent of Churchill, both men were speaking not just about defending their own country, but about something greater, right? Defending sovereign, democratic countries and that which they represent. Ukraine is on the battlefield for that very fight. So for us to say, preface everything we're saying by, well, they're not a member of NATO. They represent everything NATO was formed for, and we have to take that into account, not this notion that because they're not a member of NATO, we can't do everything that we would do if they cross the border into Poland.
You were one of the people who were pushing for Congress to hear from Volodymyr Zelenskyy. Now it looks like that is going to happen in just a couple of days. He has been, by all accounts, I think, an extraordinary communicator, an extraordinary defender for his country. But what do you think he can say that members of Congress, that the president haven't already heard, that will move the needle to take even stronger action?
I think every time he speaks, he moves people. I can tell you he did move me and make me rethink my very thoughts of why we are so quick to defend NATO under Article 5, but not a country that's actually living that out under its true spirit. So, and the fact is, this will be a broader audience. It will be to the whole country, and I think it will give the rest of the world an opportunity to see what we saw in that Zoom call a week ago and the presentation to the British Parliament. Very powerful. He's Ukraine's, I guess, secret weapon, and he has been as valuable in this effort as anything we've seen.
One of the extraordinary things, if there is something, good or I guess just, makes us feel better about what is a horrific experience for the people of Ukraine is the way the rest of the world has responded to it, right? And the way people have opened their hearts here in the United States. We have seen huge response from business, but also members of the Ukrainian community, members of the Jewish community. You represent a large community of Ukrainian Americans in Illinois. I wonder what you're hearing from your constituents and how they feel about the way the world has opened its doors, opened their checkbooks, opened their hearts.
I was with Senator Durbin to that very point yesterday at a rally in Ukrainian Village here in Chicago. It is extraordinarily powerful. And I've represented the community for a couple decades now, all told. And at some point, they're not just constituents, they're friends. And when they show you pictures and letters and notes from their families, their loved ones, it is incredibly powerful. But I've seen that, in that crowd yesterday were flags from people the diaspora from all of Europe. We saw Polish flags, Moldova, all the Baltics. They're extraordinarily united. So again, if there is a silver lining in this horror, it is a wake up that this threat exists out there. It always has. It hasn't ended after 1945, something we need to be reminded of, and that we need to be united as the West toward this sort of totalitarian threat.
Congressman Mike Quigley, thank you so much for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you.